Hey guys, what's up? Glad you could make it once again. In today's video, I'm going to do the second part of my vinyl/CD haul which I made in Athens recently. If you didn't see my last video, I just talked about some purchases I made when I was over there. So 4 CDs in that video, and I said I would do the 2 vinyls in this video. So here we are. No long introductions needed, we can just get straight into it. The first album I picked up, something a bit different for me, Follow the Blind by Blind Guardian. Most of you have probably heard of this band, quite well known in the metal scene. It's a German heavy metal band formed in the late 1980s, and their style is most commonly associated with power metal, which I agree with completely. It's very operatic, very galloping, a lot of choral arrangements. It's got that epic medieval sound. And the way I first heard about this band, I heard the song Valhalla, and I thought, for those reasons just mentioned, it was a very epic, atmospheric song. Just made me picture being in a medieval or Tolkien-esque fantasy world. So I thought, yeah, this is something appealing, definitely check it out. And it's funny though, because this album and the first album, they're more rooted in, I would say, speed metal rather than power metal. Like there are those choral elements there, aspects of power metal, but it's not taken completely over the top. Like on this album, I would say that it's very fast, very energetic. The riffs are razor sharp. It's almost quite aggressive actually. So some people think, oh, power metal, it's all rainbows and unicorns. I don't know, but this is quite extreme in terms of the level of aggression and speed and so on. So a bit different to what I expected as well, but in a good way. Just going to show you the format. It comes on plain black vinyl. You can see here on side B. So hopefully you can see that, but it's that obscure cloaked figure from the cover art, which I really like. Also comes in a nice gatefold. Just opens up as a simple artwork, so you can see you've got that cloaked figure again. Really like this artwork, very atmospheric. Sorry about the glare there. And no poster included, but it comes just with this basic insert here, so nice layout of the lyrics. Alright, while it's quite speedy most of the time, they do have those a lot of catchy riffs and really good breakdowns, as you can expect with this genre of music. A lot of blistering guitar solos, and as I mentioned, those anthemic sing-along choruses, they almost sound choral, like very powerful. The lead vocals are a bit different. A lot of people expect power metal lead vocals to be sort of soaring and operatic, you know, very high, but these aren't your typical power metal vocals. It sounds more like it's a mid-range, and it's a little bit raspy. I'm sure some of you have heard the debut EP from Halloween, Walls of Jericho. Those kind of lead vocals. I didn't really dislike any of the tracks on this, I have to say, but of course there are always standouts. So some of my favorites: Damned for All Time, the title track, Follow the Blind, Hall of the King, Valhalla, of course, the song which got me into this, and Don't Break the Circle. One thing which I did find weird on this, the last song, they include a cover of Barbara Ann by the Beach Boys, which is totally random, a bit weird. So they start with Barbara Ann, just the chorus, and then they go into this Little Richard song, the one which was featured in the Predator film, so again, even more random. I'm not sure if that was an attempt at comedy, or they're just trying to provide some light relief after such a dramatic, powerful sounding album. But yeah, pretty funny, but it's yeah, give or take for me. But anyway, if you haven't heard this band or haven't heard this album, I'd recommend checking it out at least. It's very good. Blind Guardian, Follow the Blind. The next one, to the opposite end of the spectrum, so to speak, I got Obituary's Cause of Death. I say this all the time, but Obituary is a band that certainly needs no introduction. This is classic, old school death metal. I've been a fan of this band since the late 90s. The first band I heard by them was World Demise. I was into other death metal bands before this. It took me a while to get into this band, but once I did, they totally grabbed me because they're completely unique vocally, and their style of playing is unmistakable, and I've been a fan ever since. I like all of their albums, up to and including the most recent ones. At this shop in Athens, they had this is part of the vinyl reissue series, so they had not all of them, but when I was there they had Slowly We Rot, this one, The End Complete, and Back from the Dead, all on red vinyl. And to be honest, I like all of those albums. They're all great. Each one has a special meaning to me, but if I had to choose an album which was my favorite, like absolute number one, it would definitely be this one. To me, it's just best production, the heaviest, best songwriting, best grooves. This is groove-driven death metal. It's not like like some bands, you know, Cannibal Corpse is very aggressive, especially modern Cannibal Corpse with hyper blasting and all of those newer death metal bands. And I would say it still takes a lot from thrash metal. There's the thrash metal roots, which you can definitely hear in this. So it's not just blasting the whole time. They have good breakdowns. It's very catchy. And on this album in particular, there's a lot of diversity. They have a lot of slow, crunchy parts, and also some mid-paced blast beats accompanied by thrashy riffs. So that thrash element is still really strong here, which I love. But as is always the case with this band, they have those fast galloping parts, but then they have these really slow breakdowns with open power chords which add to atmosphere. That's the thing, a lot of modern death metal bands, I find it's all about who can play the fastest notes, who sounds the most brutal, the most guttural vocals, but I think that those bands, they lose atmosphere. For me, my favorite death metal bands are ones from the 90s, which incorporate atmosphere. One of those bands is definitely Obituary. Autopsy is probably my favorite death metal band. They have atmosphere as well. Atmosphere can be achieved with slower parts. If bands are just blasting non-stop, it's a bit monotonous. Like, don't get me wrong, it's impressive, but that's what I like about bands like Obituary. There's that diversity, and on this album you really hear that. Another really standout aspect of this album, there's this really thunderous drumming which is holding it all together. It adds to the heaviness, and the lead guitars, the solos, they have this really blistering style. Amazing. It's very, very talented playing, and those solos are performed by this guy here. It's James Murphy. He was a well-known hired gun for death metal in the 90s. Very popular. He featured on the albums of several bands, like Considered Dead by Gorguts. He played the solo on Inoculated Life. By the way, that's a great album. I love it. James Murphy also played in Death and featured on albums by other bands like Disincarnate, Cancer, and now Obituary. So his guitar playing, like a lot of people say it's a Whittlesome style, but I reckon it's awesome. Gotta hear it, like it's just genius. The vocals, most people, if you don't know Obituary for whatever reason, the vocals are unique. So most death metal vocals, they're barked or done at a very low pitch level growl kind of thing, but Obituary is unique. John Tardy has this sort of vomiting, gurgling, drain voice. you know, he has a really wide vocal range on this album. It's not I've heard a lot of people say he sings the same line or the same tone in every vocal, which is actually not true on this album. So he's got that gurgling drain voice, but he also goes into really low pitch growls and then razor sharp high screeches. He sings with a lot of emotion, so I think it's really diverse and it adds to the atmosphere. Just show you the vinyl. This one, it's the limited edition. This is side A. You see the eyeball from the front cover artwork. You've just got band logo in the title and that iconic pile of skulls imaged by the tree. The artwork, by the way, is amazing. I think A lot of people say it's quite basic, but if you look at it, there's a lot of detail. So there's the guy trapped in the spider web, there's the pile of skulls by the tree, the eyeball, the bloody teeth, the moon, just really great atmospheric artwork. It also comes with an insert, very basic. It's just a history about this album, which I've got on the CD version I bought some years ago. And also a cool photo of the band here. And interestingly, they contain snippets or excerpts of some of the lyrics featured on the album. A lot of people say, oh, with Obituary there's no lyrics, he's just making noise, but you can actually hear some audible lyrics. I think they're transposed here. So yes, very happy to have that. I could just read you all of the tracks, but what's the point of that? In terms of highlights, like there's no real bad tracks on this album, but I would say some of my favorites: the opener, Infected, very atmospheric; Chopped in Half, just a brilliant song when they do that breakdown with the double kick drumming and the groovy riff; Circle of the Tyrants, which is a cover of a Celtic Frost song. To me, that song is just an eargasm. Like this cover, it's brilliant. Very heavy, crunchy, thrashing. It just makes you want to bang your head. And the thunderous drumming when they have those breakdowns, like it's just so good. And they've got these open, heavy power chords, great guitar solo, thrashy elements. It just, for me, that's one of the highlights of the album. So Circle of the Tyrants. Memories Remain is a very good song for me. They even include some keyboards in that, and it's just got this very sort of dark, ominous atmosphere. As I said, 90s death metal included a lot of atmosphere, which I really appreciate. Final song, Turned Inside Out, that's also great. Just so many catchy riffs in that, and it's got this Syrian mean kind of edge. And interestingly, this also includes 3 demo versions of tracks on the album, so of Infected, Memories Remain, and Chopped in Half. And for demo versions, they're very good. A bit rawer, of course, as you would expect, but also very heavy. So, and the vocals are slightly different. But yeah, just an interesting take on the songs you already know. If for whatever reason you've never checked this band out, which I think is unlikely, definitely go to this one. It's really good. I recommend it. My favorite Obituary album, Cause of Death. I didn't expect this video to go on for too long, but there you go, it's the same length as the last one. The good news is that I've got that haul out of the way. The next video is just talk about my collection, so starting in alphabetical order. That's going to hit the ground running from the next video. That will happen quite soon, I hope. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.